Greetings, Mencken fans from around the world. Welcome to the next edition of a Mencken Minute. My name is Jeff Jerome, and this is my Mencken colleague, Miss Sherry Weaver. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, and we're on the board of directors for the Society to Preserve H.L. Mencken's Legacy.
Now, what we're going to do for this segment is totally opposite of what we've done in the past, where we've had humor, some laughter, but this time it's going to be a bit more serious. We're going to read a selection of letters between H.L. Mencken and his, well, actually when they started writing they weren't married, and eventually they became married. So
right.
Love letters between these two people. And we got them from Mencken, A Life in Letters, H.L. Mencken and Sara Hart Mencken, edited by Marion Elizabeth Rogers. So Mencken and Sara. This is our source. Now, this is not every single letter that they wrote, but it's pretty close to it.
A very large collection.
Right.
Compiled.
And I think a debt of gratitude goes to Marion Elizabeth Rogers, a well-respected Mencken scholar, for gathering these letters and putting them in a book for Mencken fans to read.
And not just gathering them, but also putting them into context, giving her commentary.
Yes.
And again, the context in which the letters were written. It's
right.
very valuable.
And that certainly helped. Now, many of these letters were very ordinary. Not every letter was filled with passion and romance. So, like in previous editions of a Mencken Minute, I selected the ones that I liked that Mencken wrote. And Sherry?
And I went through these letters, some of the ordinary, some of the extraordinary, and picked ones that I liked in Sara's voice that she wrote to Henry.
So we will be going back and forth, and we hope that you really enjoy this particular edition of a Mencken Minute. So we'll get started.
This
and
is
I believe
very sentimental.
Yes,
so.
And I believe that Henry goes first.
Yes, I believe so. Let me.
All right.
Okay.
January 23rd, 1924. Dear Sara, I hope you do whatever Sloan and Kahn recommend. If Sloan says go to Lebaisville, go as soon as you can. You will be comfortable and contented in 2 days, and as you begin to put on weight, you'll probably actually enjoy it. The place is not far from Baltimore. It is a first-rate hospital run by good men, and you will be under Sloan's eye. Kahn says that a complete cure is certain. God knows I wish I were near enough to see you today. I'll be in on Saturday and shall call you up as soon as I arrive. I kiss both hands. Yours, Henry.
This one's from May 26, 1923. Dear Mr. Mencken, I shall be at Dominique's on Thursday at 12:30, unless I hear that hour is not suited to your schedule. These have been dog days at college, and I'm looking forward to the meeting as the only inspiring thing that could happen. Sincerely, Sara Hart.
One more thing before we continue. I should note that we are not reading letters and responses to the letters. Sherry chose what she thought were suitable letters, and I chose what I thought were good Henry letters. So it's not like she's going to read a letter and I'm reading a response to that. So keep that in mind as you listen to us.
Right, and again, also they are going in chronological order.
Yes.
So as the years progress, you will see the letters change in dynamics.
Yes, exactly. February 18th, 1924. My dear Sara, what is the news with you? And when may I come out to see you? No word from you for a week. I want to hear that the temperature is busted and that you are putting on weight. Certainly I must see you at least once while you are still svelte. We are finished moving in New York and are now at 730 Fifth Avenue, the swellest building ever heard of. Our office walls are covered with mahogany panels. I crave the honor of showing you all of this gaudiness when you graduate. I kiss your hand. Yours, Henry.
Nice. August the 13th, 1923 also. Dear Mr. Mencken, I got stuck on the novel and so gave vent to this. I only hope and pray it is untainted by the atmosphere. Hell couldn't be any worse, and I swear and pray simultaneously for breath until September. Your seance on higher learning was simply delicious. I have folded it away to read every night next winter, when I threaten to die by the hour for being fool enough to be coerced into writing a thesis. To write a skyrocket for your review is my dearest dream. I could even endure the Hopkins if I thought it would furnish an obituary. If you don't hurry up and say that one about the gorillas, it will be too late. I want it to be in black and white. Sincerely yours, Sara Hart.
Here are 2 letters. Sunday, December 13th, 1925. Dear Sara, my mother died at 6 o'clock tonight, very peacefully. It is the end of many things for me. I'll write to you again in a few days. Yours, Henry. December 16th, 1925. Dear Sara, thanks so much for the telegram. This is desolation indeed. My father's death was nothing. But now I am in the depths. How we are to go on from here, I don't know, but go on we shall. I'm sending my sister to Pittsburgh, where my elder brother lives, on Sunday, and shall join her with my other brother on Xmas Eve. Christmas here would have been awful. Somehow I always thought of her death as something far off. Today we bury her. I'll write again in a few days. Do what Orson tells. He is an ass, but humor him. Yours, Henry.
September the 5th, 1923. Dear Mr. Mencken, if by any miracle this should ever get into print, I am afraid the Confederates are going to dig up my German ancestry. However, I am going to do another as soon as I get breath. I would, above everything, like to do some reviews. How about letting me take a whack at some of the psychological literature? I might take up some good dope at Hopkins. On the sly, while I wait upon my dentist, I am devouring Fitzgerald's letters. I have to do an essay on him sometime during the winter for that preposterous volume that Mr. Baker probably told you of. I chose Fitzgerald because I honestly believe old Omar has done more damage than any poem in the English language. I have been seeing some delightful bootleggers. From the present crop, I should say that there are at least 3 samples that you should speak intelligently of. Some of it, you may not believe, is not half bad, but I will bring you. Sincerely, yours, Sara Hart.
November 29th, 1927. Dear Sara, may I ask with all due respect, when in hell are you coming back to Baltimore? It begins to seem centuries and centuries since you left. LeMayfield and I sat mourning for 2 hours the other day. The Shalhazes want to know what has become of you. And old Anna refuses to believe as I tell her that you've become a movie star. I am clearing off accumulated debris and I shall begin work January 1st. Henry. Now, one thing you'll notice as we start progressing in the years, he's becoming more open with these terms of affection. It went from, I kiss your hand, to where the hell are you? I miss you. And I think when you, if you remember the last Mencken Minute we did, we read all of these angry headlines about him and what a degenerate he was, disgusting, vile. And yet,
the softer side.
You read this and you go, of course, I don't think we needed to actually read this to know that he was a human being and he had a softer side. But when you read these and kissing your hand and I miss you, where are you, come home, you start to get choked up a little bit that this guy really was in love. And again, as we progress, you're going to see that becoming more evident.
Right. It's such an honor to be privileged to read some of these personal letters. This is a short one, again, progressing through the years. November the 1st, 1927. Dear Henry, you're quite right. I've yelled to you unmercifully. I'm terribly sorry. Yours, Sara. That was a short one. Apologetic and short.
You know, sometimes reading these, personally, I feel like I'm intruding on something that you shouldn't be reading. But we talked about this, and you pointed out that if Mencken didn't want people to read these letters, he wouldn't have saved them. So maybe he was looking into the future and thinking, you know, I want people to know how much I love this woman. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's me talking. I don't know if he actually said that or not. But
definitely for posterity. I mean, he put rules out there after his death for the diaries to be released. And obviously some of these personal letters and other effects are now coming to light, so we get to see inside Mencken.
But I still feel like I'm intruding. You know? It's like, well, I shouldn't be reading this, you know? Okay, here's the next one. Monday, October 22nd, 1928. Dear Sara, good luck, and don't let them alarm you. You will be very comfortable, and in a week you'll be feeling fine, as Ma Smith says. Fine and dandy. Hyde and I have both come down with the mild flu, apparently as a result of a broken rest and irregular meals. I am on my legs, but somewhat wobbly. It seems to be precisely what I had last winter, then it lasted 3 days. Obviously, God has some objection to my waiting on you, but I'll come up to see you the very first chance, maybe tomorrow. I trust your courage. Yours, Henry.
December the 31st, 1929. Darling, it was so sweet to have your New Year's message. I came in from Ruxton last night, tired and cold, and it reassured me and made me all warm again. You seemed so far away, and it was only a week ago we last met. The Duffys are having a party tonight, and also the Hamiltons, but I'm staying in to work. I remember you're to have a party. New Year's at sea. I hope you have a lovely time. Darling, I miss you and love you so. As ever, Sara.
She seems to be more vocal with her feelings of affection. Well, I mean, she is a woman. But, but seriously, she seems to be more open with her feelings.
That might have rubbed off on Henry.
Yeah.
He started to open up as well.
Right, there you go. Okay, this is from London, January 25th, 1930. Dearest Sara, the Naval Conference turns out to be the usual tedious horror. The frauds meet all morning and then issue idiotic statements, meaning nothing. The French always upset the apple cart by telling the simple truth. It shocks the British beyond endurance. As for the Americans, they sit around vacantly learning to drink tea. The usual telephone calls and letters entertain me. At the end of the week, along with Patterson and Owens, I am going to Manchester to visit the Guardian Brethren. Next week, I'll probably go to Oxford for a day to see the old Robert Bridges. Beyond that, I shall stick to London. It seems silly to waste cable tolls on so dull a show. I'll write very little. When I got here, I was greeted by the news of poor Reynolds' death. A charming fellow. He had angina pectoris, and his very last year was very uncomfortable. I miss you frightfully, and you are always in my thoughts. In 3 weeks, I'll be back. You are doomed to be hugged severely. My love forever, Henry.
That's pretty dramatic.
I told you it gets better as we progress in the years.
But what I enjoy about these is that they also give a snapshot in the life and times at that time. I mean, you know, letting us know what's going on with the other
And when he would write to Sara, he would include all this information, not like, well, I miss you, I'll see you soon. Talks about what he was doing, complaining about what he was doing.
What he was eating.
And drinking.
Yes.
And what he was drinking. And I think we've lost that art of letter writing. And
Email's just not the same.
it's just not the same. And it's like, I miss you, the letter U, and that's it. All right. But the art of letter writing, I think we need to bring that back. But I digress. I'm sorry. You're next.
No, we're moving up to January the 8th, 1930. This is included in the marriage years portion of the book. Henry dear, it will probably be another week or two before your letters begin to arrive. I'm quite desolate without them. Are you thoroughly rested, darling? And are you having a very marvelous time? I hope so. You've had such a dreadful year. I'm supposed to go by the Barry concert with the Wolcotts Friday night, but I fear I'll have to decline. Richardson is trying out a new scheme, and I have to stay close. He thinks I should go away for a while, not to Montgomery particularly, where there are mainly tombstones, but further south, or to Bermuda. It's quite impossible, of course. I only know I shouldn't be in this state of mind. I'm working through every day and every night. All my love, Sara.
September 5th, 1934. Darling, the injection yesterday gave me a good lift. It is hot today, 78 degrees with 71% of humidity, but I feel pretty good. I sneezed only once this morning. Return the clipping within. I have duplicates of the others. Hurst is still bathing me in goose grease. I only hope his flow of money is not cut off. The house begins to be tomb-like. At meals, there's no one to caution me against eating fast, and so I dawdle along for half an hour, and in the evenings I almost shiver. Such are the effects of love upon even a war hero. I'm writing to Betty Haynes today, saying that we will be at Winston on Monday, September 17th. I fear she is cutting corners pretty closely, and that it will be better to meet her on the 18th. I am asking her to wire me as soon as she lands on the 14th. I tried to find bottoms for her milk glass today, but failed. However, I picked up a swell rabbit for her. With ruby eyes, it is a big piece and quite unusual. I got it from the little fellow who has taken over Turner's place. I love you excessively. Yours, Henry. Now, one thing I'm noticing, and it's the time period, I picked up a swell rabbit. And I remember watching films from the 1930s. And that was a popular phrase to say, oh, you're such a swell guy. And I mean, a swell rabbit. Not a good one or a delicious one, a swell rabbit. So I love you excessively. I love that. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry. I always digress when I read these.
April the 26th, 1930. Darling, how I wish I were at the Dower House with you tonight. I know you've had a lovely time. It is just a week since I left you, and it seems like a million years. I doubt if I can stick it out much longer. My mother seems better. She is writing to you, but we haven't had a great deal to say to each other. And it is in fact that most of my contemporaries are dead or scattered. It continues unnaturally cool here. Today is Memorial Day. There were only 6 veterans down from the soldiers' home to march in the parade. The ginger beer arrived, and John and I stormed the express office, but there was no stirring the Confederates on a holiday. Thank you so much for sending it, and the magazines and the books. Darling, I miss you so. Sara.
Now we are in the year 1935. April 1st, 1935. Darling, Baker tells me that your temperature has been down for 2 days. Grand news. A couple of days of sunlight and you'll be ready to sign off. If only the weather were decent. My larynx and trachea are sore, but Baker could find nothing in the bronchial tubes. He ordered me to lie low, but this afternoon I took a long nap. Tonight I shall go to bed early, with a big slug of whiskey aboard. He found my blood pressure to be 130, very good for an old boozer. I wired to all of my New York brethren. My trip there can wait a few weeks. I probably won't go until it is time for the next hay fever shot. The house is horribly lonely and gloomy. When you come home, I shall yell. I love you. Henry, sorry.
April the 2nd, 1935. Darling, I seem to be holding my own. I was out on the porch this morning for 2 hours. The sun was really warm. I've missed you terribly and felt dreadfully about your being in the house alone when you didn't feel well. Ben Baker says you are in excellent shape except for your cold. He says he made a thorough examination of your chest. Your blood pressure is only 8 points higher than mine. Well, it will be a joy to see you again. I hope my temperature stays down. Ben Baker has been going over my x-rays and my chart. He says he can find nothing in the x-rays. I love you, dearest one, Sara.
Now, let's see if I can get through this without choking up, okay?
Where are the tissues?
All right. Give me a moment, okay? April 1935. Darling, in view of the weather, I think it would be foolish to go to New York today. I feel pretty good, but there's still some soreness, and I think I had better lie low. I'll see you tomorrow. How I miss you. Yours, Henry. April 1935. Darling, this needs no special adjustment. Simply hook the end of the thin wire to the valve of the radiator, or to the radiator itself, and plug the power wire in on your light. You will then bathe in art. The house is a desert, Henry. This was the last letter Sara would receive from Mencken. Thoughtful as ever, Mencken had brought Sara a record player to cheer her up at the hospital. For a few weeks she sat up and, despite her dizzy spells, continued to write notes from her novel and letters to her friends. Towards the end of May, Dr. Benjamin Baker diagnosed that Sara had meningitis with tubercular bacillus in the spinal fluid. You read it.
During her last days, she slept peacefully, waking up and then falling asleep again, while Mencken sat by, watching her fight magnificently in the shadows. Sara died on May 31st, 1935.
So there you go. I hope you enjoyed these letters, and this is just a small sampling. I mean, there are hundreds of letters in there.
That's how big this book is.
Yeah. Now, this right here is, I think,
beautiful illustration.
Marion told me that this is the complete edition. Apparently there were changes in the previous editions, and she said this is the one that you want if you're going to buy this book. And this image on the front of the lovebirds in a boat, I guess it's the Chesapeake Bay, it says the Sea of Matrimony, is in the Mencken room at the Pratt Library, and apparently it's
very
quite
large,
very
color
large
version.
So again, Mencken and Sara, A Life in Letters, edited by Marion Elizabeth Rogers. I would ask, or we would suggest, that instead of reading all these other numerous books about Mencken, the way he wrote, why he wrote, whatever, check this out and read about Mencken the man and doting husband. You won't be disappointed. I know we weren't.
Right. This is much more than, Mencken wrote a lot of things, his opinions on a lot of things, but this is about who he was as a person, as a husband in this house.
Right. So this will conclude this segment of a Mencken Minute. And I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, we will be working on other Mencken Minutes. And
it'll be hard to top this one,
yes,
but
yes.
we have something in store for you.
Yes, so maybe we'll do a Mencken Minute on alcohol. beer,
Everyone loves
whiskey,
beer.
rum, whatever he drank. All right. Maybe we'll do one on how to fix soft crabs. He loves soft
Mencken
crabs.
loves crabs.
Steamed crabs. We'll have a crab feast. How's that? Okay. So anyway, thank you for joining us. And I'm Jeff Jerome.
And I'm Sherry Weaver.
And thank you for joining us for this Mencken Minute.